Glad you said that, because I was gonna just bring up, what is your definition of sexy?
Like, hey, this is not what I like, and this is not what I want to marry. But then you're like, oh, but you be liking all these pictures from all the other girls.
Right.
I'm telling you, those are not the women I want to marry.
Like, you as a single woman, like, what if I run across a man of God today? Okay. Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Fine, Fine, and Divine. My name is ZJ.
My name is Vany.
In case you're new here, this is a safe space for us to just discuss, our journey, our spiritual journey, getting closer to God, and just navigating that in all its hardness. It's not an easy thing, but we choose to come on here and be extremely transparent, especially about, our past, our testimonies, just to help anybody out there, or tell them where we're coming from, because, our journey has not been easy, and yours won't be either. That's the reality of it. So welcome. I don't even, what episode are we on?
This will be, once it airs, is going to be episode 5.
Wow, no.
I know. Yeah, because last time it was the 4th one, right? Yep.
Wow.
Working hard out here.
Yes, we're up again early on a Saturday morning. I got my green tea for a little bit of a kick of caffeine. But we're glad to start the day with you guys. And of course, we're going to start off with prayer as always. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for waking us up with sound body and sound mind. Just thank you for everything that we take for granted. Me personally, my grandmother is in her last days, and it's just making me realize how valuable our time is, how valuable our life is, just being alive, breathing, all of our limbs working, just making me and Vany beautiful inside and out. We're so grateful. We're so grateful for an abundance of family that supports us. We're so grateful for just getting here safely. There's a lot going on. Per usual, I always say that because the world is so chaotic right now, but you chose to keep us. And I think every day that you choose to keep us and everybody out there is an opportunity just to live in purpose and draw people to your name. So Lord, I pray that you truly, truly, truly speak through us, take over us, give us the wisdom, the discernment, everything that we need to transfer your word and goodness to everybody out there, so that it really transforms them, because that's why we're here, to change in your honor. This podcast is all yours, so please take over, speak through us, and let's do this. Amen.
Amen. Alrighty, so this one is good. This one, I'm really excited about this podcast. Well, this episode, but truly all of them. Like, we're excited about them because this is an opportunity for us to also learn. But the reason why we're excited about this one is because we've heard the feedback. People are like, hey, like, we also kind of want to let y'all know what we want to go over. And initially, we typically just picked up the topics we were going to move forward with. This time, we did something a little bit different. We had already initially, picked the topic, and it was like, hold on, let's let the people kind of tell us what they want. We put up a poll, and literally the topic that we were wanting to do was the topic that everyone voted for.
So it worked out perfect.
Yeah, it literally did. And I'm excited. And I think it's because the topic in itself, or I know that you put it in a different way, but the way I put it on Instagram was sexy, what did I say? Sexy and spiritual question mark though, right? Because I think it's the question is can they coincide together? Can you be sexy and a spiritual woman? And what do these things mean? So it seemed like a lot of the women were really interested in that conversation, and men too. It's really interesting. We have a large male audience, or not large, but the different platforms attract a different audience, and Instagram is definitely the more females, girls, versus the men are on TikTok and they're not so nice. Yeah, but it's okay.
I think it's crazy. I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
I'm not used to getting I see, if you go to any post, it can be a common person or a celebrity, the amount of hatred and attack is just so baffling to me. It's just why do so many people want to attack? Why is that their first response to something that they might not understand?
Yeah.
I just say, this is one of those instances where we have to practice our true godliness and just pray for people like that.
Literally.
They are, I hate to say, that cliche thing, but misery likes company. I think people are just having internal issues, and like that's portraying out, and it's just sad to watch.
Yeah,
you know
that. But I honestly, while I agree with you, and from a different perspective, I think about like whenever if I do react to these things, what is it saying about me?
Right.
Like if I get upset, is it because internally, subconsciously, do I possibly agree with them? Am I insecure about these things and they're just bringing it to light? Like, so I don't necessarily react to those comments because, girl, like I had those comments. Listen, there was a video on YouTube, and it's how I really had gotten all the followers on my personal Instagram. It's because I show up on somebody else's YouTube.
Oh, like a long time ago.
Like a long time ago. Yeah. And when it first aired, because obviously you get notified, it's like, hey, like, you know, the video got aired, whatever. And I looked at it, and all I saw was all these negative comments, like just people being so mean. And I literally, from that day, I never watched the video in full.
Really?
And I never went back to look at the comments. I have zero idea what is on there. And then, of course, a lot of those people ended up following me as well. A lot of them were great people and very positive. And honestly, a lot of it was also meant too.
Yeah.
But then that situation kind of brings me to this conversation, right? Because the thing, let me be real. Let me be real transparent. The video was about like what was it? Like gold diggers or whatever, right? And the truth is, yes, it is in fact not staged in the way where they tell you what to say, but you already know that somebody's gonna come around and they're gonna be like trying to flirt with you, right?
Yeah.
So the video wasn't still in fact 100% me as far as like my personality and the fact that I'm not a gold digger. Like that's just not how I carry myself, right? But of course, other people really don't know that. They're on the other side. And that's it, like, right? Like, so the video is me being not a gold digger, right?
Yeah.
So it attracted a lot of men, right? And I was so bamboozled about, like, why all these men were so attracted to me. While my social media has never really been about booty, butt, shaking, this and that. And, like, if anything, my social media has always been about, like, kind of either being really goofy or sharing some, like, enlightening message or just, you know, just being myself. Like I just like being myself. So I would always be like, why are all these guys attracted to me if I'm not what they're like you know, what they're
like the norm,
what the norm is right now, at least on social media. And it was interesting because also a lot of women were confused. They would be like, I don't understand how you got all these followers. Literally other women would tell me that. It was like, where did you get that from? I promise you. I was like, I don't know.
Not
like,
you really fixing up your lips to ask somebody that. What you trying to say?
Exactly. Because it was like, oh, but like I just don't get like how you get all these followers. And I'm like, well, I mean,
I think it's because that is. I'm sorry, that just threw me off. Do you think it's because like you weren't showing a lot of skin and like
I think in part was that, and because I never had a very like influencer aesthetic on my page, right? Like, you know, when you go to an influencer, like you can tell they're an influencer. But I always also kind of want to like redefine the word influence, because to me the word influencer isn't like you're just popular,
right?
It's you literally impact someone's life in a good way or in a bad way, right?
I agree.
And I think for me, like if I am going to call myself an influencer, I say that because I know for a fact that people have reached out to me like, oh my god, like this video that you shared the other day, while it was on my story, like it wasn't even like something I posted, but like when you said that, like that touched me, like that meant a lot, like or like
that's my favorite.
Right. And it will be like, or the Bible studies, like those notes. I'm like, oh my god, like this made me want to get back into the word or whatever. Or just when I'm goofy, they like, this is so refreshing, you know?
Made me a laugh, like a genuine laugh.
Exactly. So then it's like, I know for a fact that I am influencer, but not in the same way that modern society labels it. I'm not over here trying to be popular. Like, you know, I'm not trying to get applause from everybody and the attention from everybody. But it is very interesting that my audience is men, because then it's like, well, then what is it that they find attractive? What do they label, like, because do they still label me, you know, attractive, sexy as other women that they're like also on social media? So yeah, it just like brings it all into this conversation. Like, can you be sexy, quote unquote, and also a spiritual woman, and what does that look like, and like how do we even navigate this whole situation?
I think there is so many layers to this, like literally. I studied on it, and first of all, this is one of the areas that me personally, like, I'm in identity crisis with. I think because I'm so used to a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think people automatically assume, you know, men and women, mostly men, that when women dress revealing that, oh, she wants this attention. Like, you know what I mean? But I think we have to realize that people come from all different backgrounds, and like you never know what shapes that behavior in people. And so I'm coming at it now as from like a less judgmental type of thing. One, because I'm just now catching my groove and realizing like, hey, you need to watch yourself in this area. And two, because of my background is truly athletic. So since, like I was telling you before, since I was 4, I was wearing cheerleading skirts, and like it never occurred to me that was wrong. Like anything I was wearing my entire life, like I never associated how I was dressing with, you know, like I'm trying to get some type of attention. It's just always like,
this is the,
you know, this is it, and I'm comfortable. When you're deep in fitness and like you're deep in sports and stuff like that, it makes you somewhat really comfortable with your body.
100%. I've never been an athlete like long term. Okay, like I shared with you, I was literally a cheerleader for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But I do notice that a lot of the girls, like let's say like there was one time with the trading team, whatever, we all had stayed over in a hotel, and while I'm very comfortable with my body, my family knows I'm okay with my body, right? And all the other girls, they were athletes, and then but I never really like changed in front of other women while I'm comfortable with my body. I was just like, okay, well, let me go into the bedroom and change since nobody's there. All of the other girls were just like, and I'm like, oh, okay,
that's me.
Yeah.
But it's not malicious towards anybody. It's not to provoke someone. You know what I mean? How everyone sees it in a way like, oh, she's dressing like that, must be like this. You just automatically must be, you know, promiscuous.
Right.
I think that's a crazy thing to always assume.
Right.
So like I said, coming from my history, is just like you're comfortable, like you built this confidence through fitness and everything. Like you do change frequently in front of people all the time.
Yeah.
So it just makes you comfortable in a sense, and you get used to dressing that way.
Right.
So then it transfers to your clothes that you wear outside of, you know, athleticism. You're like, you know, you like your short dresses and your two pieces.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
you
natural.
like looking at your nice legs because you work hard for them too.
You're proud of what you built.
Exactly.
And I think there's another layer to this as well, like saying, okay, this level of how I dress is feminine.
Right.
Like it gives me feminine power.
Right.
Now that I'm starting to realize is like so untrue. Yeah. I'm learning that's very untrue from the word.
Right.
So basically, like, that's not where we're supposed to get our power from. And as much as I used to kind of like resonate with that, like, yeah, you're right, I can do what I want with my body, you know, I can dress how I want to dress because
it's empowering.
It's empowering. I can understand why, I hate to say it, why people think that would be silly. Yeah. Now I totally understand it. Right. It's because showing your body and doing what you want to do is actually not a form of empowerment, because our bodies and what we do is actually not ours. Like, you get what I'm saying? So I just feel like now I understand, like, my body and what I do is for God. It's not for me. So it's not a selfish thing. So I think that just changed my whole perspective. Like, I'm supposed to be living for God, right? So what do I look like trying to empower myself through all of these worldly things, including having so much self-pride in how I look in my body. Like, it's just like, when they say God will change your heart, that is so true. Yeah. Like, I haven't even taken because you mentioned something like, let's show our journey. I haven't even taken down my Instagram posts. Yeah. And mostly two pieces, like tight clothing, like not super crazy, ridiculous, like just I'm turning around and butt cheeks is there. But you know, but you know, I love two-piece bathing suits. Like I saw that as like, this is what I'm used to. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not really trying to like throw somebody off by looking at this, or like maybe throw them off their journey, that's another later.
That part right there.
I'm gonna let you speak on yours, and then I want to unwrap a few more layers that just by studying, and I didn't even think about that aspect of throwing somebody else off, like on the other side. So I have Bible verses to kind of coincide with what I'm saying, but you go ahead and share.
Yeah. Well, in regards to me, I think my story is a little bit different. Again, I wasn't an athlete. My mom was very strict, so my cousins will always tell me like, "Oh, tu mamá te viste como monja," like your mom dresses you like a nun, because while she was never a Christian woman or anything like that, she just didn't want to sexualize us in comparison to our culture, Puerto Rican culture. Hello, you're on an island, so people are barely wearing clothes. For the most part.
So she actually had like a little role in.
Well, she was just very strict. Like she was like, you're not wearing these little booty shorts, you're not wearing these little crop tops, none of that. Until I got older, honestly, around when I was like 16-ish, is when I started revealing myself a little bit more, because I was not allowed to do that. Matter of fact, again, when I was going to church and I would invite myself to church with my friends, back home in Connecticut, there's like a lot of the churches are like real old school. We call them like rajatabla, like they're just strict. They're very legalistic. Yeah. So it was like you wearing your skirts to down here, like you're not wearing makeup, you're not doing your hair, you're not doing all these things.
Real modest.
And I didn't find it a problem when I was growing up. It became a problem to me a little bit when I was a little bit older. Like this is me now in high school, and I was just seeing that while I would dress like that. But I would dress like I'm gonna put it together. I wanted to look good still, because I always felt like, okay, I still need to be presentable.
And
then
there's nothing wrong with that.
And then I would look at the other girls in my church or just around, and I'm like, damn, but like y'all just look old. Like why don't y'all also like what's happening?
Flair to it.
Have a style to it, right? And a lot of times, like it will also feel like the pastors will make us feel bad for wanting to like. Or they're like, oh, this is not a fashion show. I'm like, well, I'm not trying to put a show for you. Like, this is one for me and also for God. Because I do believe that God does tell us to be best dressed. Right? You know, exactly. In every form of fashion and everything that you do. And you're doing it for God. Do the best you can at it.
Exactly.
So I didn't understand when the girls would show up and I'm like, all your clothes doesn't look put together. You look raggedy. And you don't look like you're promiscuous, but you look like an old lady with no sense of style. And then you wonder why there's also marriage issues within the church, because you're not even your husband is not looking at you like, wow, you know, like you also, I don't know, maybe this may be where I'm wrong a little bit, but I also think that for my husband, I should also be presentable as well, because he is a man. And while I'm not justifying the action, I know that if something else comes around that looks a little bit more appealing, looks a little bit more sexy or whatever, his eye is gonna wonder, you know, and we wanna bring it back, you know.
You always bring up a certain spin to things that I don't think about. Like, what you said, like, I would think that, I don't know if that's a worldly way to think about it, but at the same time, I understand where you're coming from, because it's like, okay, just because you're in modesty doesn't mean you have to totally just go off the rail and not even try to make yourself look, you know, like presentable
and beautiful.
Yeah, right. I think there's a line that we're dancing in between that we kind of have to like figure it out. I think it's, you know, like it's one of those things that takes practice. I think it takes time, and it takes, you know, getting to that point to where you're not doing it for the world, but you're still wanting to like be what is it, like, not an example, but like when people look at you, they're supposed to see like a reflection of God.
Right. Which,
you know what I mean?
Definitely ties in with the word, like when we are being like sanctified. I always say that word wrong, because when that word just necessarily means like you're set apart. So like when other women see us, first I want to clarify, like we're not over here teaching like a doctrine, right? Like I'm not telling you go out there and start wearing, you know, like completely head to toe,
right.
You know, because that's not my responsibility. That is the conviction that God puts into your heart. But also like the church you go to, and your pastor is supposed to pastor you and tell you what doctrine and like how this is how we gonna move or whatever. But nevertheless, I do think that there has to be a difference between even the way we present ourselves out there. Like, you can tell there is a difference, right? Like, we are set apart. Not to judge and dismiss other women for doing that, because we've all gone through something, you know, like those identity crises. There's for sure, I've had literally, like, I definitely do dress very, like, in certain time frames, like, I dress a lot more promiscuous and like not on some wild, like, I'm wearing like those, like, what are, like, fishnet type things and holes everywhere, but like, I knew that what I was wearing was definitely gonna catch the eye, you know. But just because, again, like, we did something, we need to recognize, like, we gotta be real. Like, I'm not in here and I'm not doing this podcast for the sake of, like, we're just gonna sugarcoat it and we're gonna be telling you, hey sis, it's okay. If you're listening to this podcast, I want you to understand we're saying it with love, but like, we have to do better, because if we're gonna prioritize God, being also like wanting to be a spiritual woman, right? To define sexy is just something that's appealing, right? Something that's attractive. There's a portion of it that can be like a part of it. You can do it for sexual reasons. You look sexy because you're sexually, like, you know, arousing, you know, causing that reaction. But sexy could also be like, you're very confident, you're very attractive, you bring, like, there's something about you that
attracts. Aura about you.
Correct.
And I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna just bring up, what is your definition of sexy? And like, I think people can have their mind in the gutter and automatically think, oh, like, promiscuous, you know, like, this is putting yourself out there and showing your body to people outside of your husband. It's trying to attract male attention, but at the same time, it can mean keeping up with your body. It can mean treating your body as a temple to where it looks good. You know what I mean? Keeping up with yourself doesn't mean that you're out to get attention for the wrong reasons. Or like you said, how you carry yourself when you come in a room. What does your aura say? Does it say, like, this is a light that I want to be around? You know what I mean? Does your soul glow in a pretty way? Like, I think there's so many ways you can look at that, because there's so many things outside of the body and what you wear that makes you attracted to other people. 100%. So I was just going to touch on that. Like, literally, like, it depends on your definition. Now, we can use different words than sexy. You know what I mean?
But of course.
But it's just like, you know, I think it's important to talk about it just because, like, people have so many different definitions of it, and you never know. I just think that word is automatically associated with so many bad things when it doesn't necessarily have to be. Now, we can use the words like attractive, beautiful, appealing. But the thing about it is like, so let me read the things real quick. Because I think it's going to roll into like two more things. Okay. The first one is 1 Timothy 2:9. It says, I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety. I cannot say that word right. Please excuse me. Adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. So that one is more on the outer conviction side of things. Like we said, God said what he said. You know what I mean? And like you said, I think there's a way to do this very tastefully, but still stylish and be your very unique and divine self. And that's where we have to find like that line between that and like really pushing it. You know what I mean?
100%.
The other one I found interesting was about this is on the subject of not causing another to stumble.
Is it the little pebble? Don't be the like stone or something like that needs somebody else to.
Pretty much, it says therefore. This is Romans 14:13, and I don't know if I'm going to 14 yet. Let me read 13. So therefore, let us not pass judgment on one another any longer, but rather decide never to put a stumbling block or hindrance in the way of a brother. Now, when I read that like a long time ago, I didn't even think about this subject. But I was doing research on just modesty, and that verse kept coming up. And I was like, why? Like, I don't get it. And so I just started reading notes and like getting into it, and I listened to a few podcasts just to see what different interpretations. And it's like, basically, we have a responsibility, right?
Exactly.
We have a responsibility as a woman of God to not provoke our brothers.
Literally.
Because what we don't realize is that them looking at us sexually is already adultery.
Yeah.
And
we caused them to.
Right. And that's something, like that's like, wow, that brought me a lot of awareness, because I didn't even think about it like that. But at the same time, it makes me realize, like, okay, why it's not okay to be like half naked on Instagram. Like, all dudes see nowadays when they're scrolling is nakedness and
soft
nakedness.
Porn,
and I've been a part of that.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's not malicious on my end. Like, I've been in a relationship for a very long time, and my partner has always been comfortable with the way that I dress. He's never condemned me or made me feel uncomfortable. Like, it just is the way it, and if your partner doesn't look at it like a bad thing, you definitely don't. You know what I mean? But I have to really think about it as well. Like, what were my intentions? Even though I don't think I have bad intentions, what was my subconscious mind thinking about? Like, I don't think I was thinking about anything bad, but did I want some type of attention?
And it doesn't have to be from the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Like, girls nowadays hype each other up.
No,
so
really.
much more,
Like, it's like, I always get the comments like, body goals.
Yeah.
This, you know what I mean? So in my mind, sometimes that feels good, and that, but that shouldn't be what we're seeking.
Right.
I think we should be seeking not to be liked or adored in that manner. I think it's like more so the insides that we should be, that people should be like, I think attracted to, just men and women in general, like your spirit, like all of those things that are inside of you that make people like, okay, this is why, this is a reflection of how God wants a woman to be. I think that's what we're supposed to portray. But going back to making men stumble, I totally didn't think about that.
And because we don't want to even be responsible for that. Like, oh, but why are they looking? Why?
But you know what? What I learned is it's a very much so mutual responsibility.
Exactly.
So yes, we're not supposed to provoke them, but at the same time, they have to display a sense of self-discipline. But in order for a man to do that, they have to be in the Word to even understand what that is. And I think that's why, like, our women and our men are so lost.
And we're battling each other so much.
Because, if you don't know better, you can't do better. If you're not in the Word and you don't know better, you're just out here doing whatever it is that you want to do, and it's like, you don't understand. You have a complex, but why can't I do what I want?
Right.
But if you really sit down and read and understand that it's not about you, then you can probably grasp some of these concepts of like why certain things are like just wrong and doesn't get you closer to God, like where you're trying to go. You have to, unfortunately, you can't pick and choose what you want to listen to. And that's what I'm starting to realize, like, okay, I'm not going to say I'm going to dress baggy like this every day. But I'm a wife. Yeah. Like, I have to really pay attention to that.
How do you feel when you say that?
I don't know. It still feels kind of new, you know? It still feels new.
That sounds so beautiful. I'm going to cry right now.
Oh my goodness.
Wife.
Yeah, it feels kind of funny to say, I'm not gonna lie, just because it's so fresh.
Yeah.
But
oh my God, honestly.
But like, even you as a single woman, it's just like, basically what I'm learning from Vany, you are supposed to attract a man based on the right things. And if you're super revealing, they are blinded and they can't
see past
that.
They can't see the other qualities.
But the thing about it is, it's hard. I think it's hard for women because they want a husband, you know what I mean? And they feel like possibly the only way to get there is to be like everybody else, or they're going to be overlooked. And I totally get it, because you're competing with all of this openness. Like, you're competing with all the beautiful bodies and stuff like that, and you feel like, how do I even have a chance? But that's where your faith comes in. Like, your faith got to be strong in knowing that God is going to send you somebody that appreciates modesty. Now, as scary as that is, because it's so rare, you feel like you're never going to find it. It's still possible. So I just want to share that. Like, it's still out here happening. Like, you can still meet a man that is in his word and understands where you are and appreciates, like, this woman is set apart from all of them. It might not be that man that every girl wants all the time, and it might in the world. It could be too. In the club, you know, that guy. You know what I mean? But there's a high possibility God will send you the entire package of what you're looking for. I just want y'all to know it's so possible, and we don't have to settle.
Right. And I think too, like, again, right, those verses are very convicting, right? Because again, like, it says, don't only adorn yourself with so and so and whatever, because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to prioritize those things as the things that make you beautiful. That's the point of that. It's like, this is not the only way that I need you to show up and be beautiful. I need you to show up and be beautiful from the things that you do internally, but also being that, like, stumbling like rock or whatever. It is really important, because especially now, as we're talking about, like, I look at a lot of my coworkers. Matter of fact, I asked a couple of my friends. I naturally attract a lot of male friends. And I always ask them, like, okay, so what do you like? Because, you know, I do think that you also, as men, like, you are responsible for the kind of women you're attracting in your life. You know, so if you're attracting crazy honey, that's because that's what you like, you know. But anyways, I asked them, and I was like, okay, what are things that you find sexy? And I use that word specifically, that is not lustful. Like, what are things that you consider sexy that's not lustful? Question. And it would be better. I took notes of it, some of the things they said. Oh, my little notebook. Because I was like, I'm gonna use this one, guys.
Oh, you should, because I'm curious.
They said, and things that I'm not necessarily ignorant to, because again, like, since I have a lot of male friends, I pay attention. And maybe future husband, that's probably gonna be a little bit of a hard thing to deal with, because I already know the games and the plays, baby. Not me. But anyways, so he said, they said, so I kind of put them, because they repeated a lot of things, so I just made them into 5 points. Something that they find, like, that is sexy is how they are able to hold a conversation, and a conversation that is intellectual, and where faith is also, like, part of that conversation. Like, they find a woman attractive when they can hold these kind of conversations. And I've noticed, like, you know, they'll go on dates, and then it's like they really don't have nothing to talk about. But she comes in, she looked good, but it's like, damn, we're here eating dinner, but we don't know what you doing?
We're not going deep enough.
Right, exactly. So they find that attractive in a woman. They said a woman that prioritizes her health. This would be the physical aspect, like working out. What kind of activities are you into? Taking care of
your body, what you're putting in your body,
and what you're putting in, right? So like the internally, like intrinsically, as far as like, okay, you're not over here eating junk food all day every day, which is the part I need to work on. I don't be eating out all the time, but like I will go ahead and stop at Cane's, bro. And then just like working out and taking care of their physical body. Style, right? So like when they said style, it was like. Style, I mean, like you look put together, right? Not necessarily like it. Actually, one of them said it's not sexy when you dress too sexy, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, right? So like, some women would think like, okay, I'm wearing this that is like it's a very sexy outfit, but they already know that everybody else is also looking. It's like, ugh, like for them. At least this is what one of them shared. So I was like, okay.
Do you feel like that's popular or unpopular? Because I feel like men always say that, but then their eye goes directly to the total opposite.
I do think that they are. What their eyes look at isn't necessarily, they're knowing that the kind of difference of a woman. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So physically it's like, okay, that's attractive. But that's not who I'm trying to wife.
Exactly.
Got it.
Like I do think when I ask the question, what is sexy, but it's not lustful, they're thinking about the woman that is like, okay, like this is a woman that I really want, versus like, okay, it is sexy that I see women half naked all damn day, but that's not necessarily when you're taking away the like, okay, if it's not something that's lustful, then what are things you're really attracted to truly, like your spirit actually wants, So yeah, and then maintenance, so self-care, like you know, I did struggle with this a little bit when I was growing up, because one thing that I hated doing was my hair, and I still do. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, so my hair would look raggedy, or actually even growing up, I mean, I was a project kid, so I would go to the store, the mall in pajamas.
Yeah.
And like
comfortable, like whatever.
Yeah, just being with whatever. Like I don't care, basketball shorts and a t-shirt. Like there's points where I was very tomboyish.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like I started being like, I literally moved here and I was around like my stepmom and them, and they always just like to look good. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't go to the mall. Like, my, you know, what was it? I had a Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. The, you know,
pants?
The pajama pants.
Yeah.
Yep, and I would go to the mall pulling up with those ghetto ratchet.
I'm screaming.
Yeah, and then something that I heard a lot was peace. Something that they just find attractive, something that they find sexy is a woman that just carries herself in peace, right? Let it be like, you know, of course, being in a relationship with her, and in the home, she's a peacemaker, right? And he's also, right? Like both of y'all should be peacemakers.
Right.
But someone said, actually, someone checked me. They was like, whenever you come in here all riled up, my coworkers, when you be coming in here all riled up and giving all that attitude, that's where you're like not sexy. Like that's not cute. And I'm like, oh, okay. And
dang.
Yeah, and I know for sure it like a lot of us women are not gonna want to hear that, and we're gonna have something to say back.
Right.
But I think we both have to hear each other, right? I think men have to hear us, and women have to hear them, and take it for what it is. If they're telling you like, hey, this is not what I like and this is not what I want to marry, but then you're like, oh, but you be liking all these pictures from all the other girls, I'm telling you, those are not the women I want to marry. Then understand that and take that for what it is, right? So anyways, that's my little
but I feel like I just have a complex with that. Like I feel like men should do better with that.
They should,
because what are you playing into with all the nonsense?
I agree.
You get what I'm saying?
I agree.
What's the point? If you're looking, well, I guess it depends on how intentional you are. Like, if you're not at that point where you're looking for a wife and you're not in your word and you're just looking for fun, I guess it's, you know, it's valid for where you are. But I guess if you are being intentional as a man or a woman, I think all of the extra is just, what's the point? Like you're saying you want this, but you're constantly entertaining that. I think that makes no sense. And we're all guilty of it. Because certain things, just like you said, like if you're not deep in it and you're not keeping, like if you're not being steadfast with your word and your studies, you can really get distracted
100%.
and just be like, oh, fun, oh, beautiful man, beautiful woman, you know. I don't even remember what I was saying.
So like how men are just like, they need to be better at like, okay, well, why are you still entertaining that if you're saying like this? I think the simple answer to that, it really is that most of these men are not in the word. Like, let's be real, right? Like a lot of the dudes
that totally makes sense.
They're not in the word. So they know, all of us know, like we know what is good, like coming from God, like what God wants from us, whatever. But we live in a broken world. We live in a fallen world. So they are gonna still like they know that they want this, but they're gonna struggle with that. But for sure, like a man that is in the Word of God and like he's deep in relationship with God. Literally, I mean, I've shared with it on the last podcast where I was like, you know, God did not even want to have sex. He literally was the one that was like, we're not doing that because I'm not going to ruin my relationship with God for you. It's the same way, like, you know, like we've gone on dates and it's like, you can tell that and even I've never been checked. No man has ever told me like, you're not wearing that. You know what I mean? But I naturally want to dress differently when I'm around a man that I know has a relationship with God. Like literally, like whenever I would go on dates with him, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna wear this because, you know, I just wanna.
So that is how we should probably think all the time. Like, what if, like you as a single woman, like, what if I run across a man of God today? You know what I mean? Like, instead of thinking like, okay, this is how he operates, let me operate. Like, what if you operated like that every day? Just because you never know. Like, as a single woman, where God is going to send that man from, where he's going to be, but let you be out there and he's there and you are out of there. You know? I just think that basically, like, it's like I said, I think it's scary. I can understand how you would be fearful to go and take that route of modesty, knowing how every other woman is out there, and just like, man, I don't want to be behind. I don't want to be left behind. Like, I do want to get attention, but not in that way, but still, how do I compete?
You know, but I will say though, and this has been a journey for me to get here, right? Yeah. But
I'm still way
because there's days that I'm like, oh, I want to really wear this because it looks nice, whatever. Right. There's some outfits in my closet I'm like, I know that's a little wild, but I know I can modify it to look more modest, right? But I would say I actually do like wearing the longer skirts. I like a very chic, modest, with a sense of sexy on it. But when I say sexy, I don't necessarily mean like provocative and like just showing a lot, but just the way I put it together. Like, I'm like, the confidence I wear it with. And I say this, God is my witness, literally when I wear things like that, I break more necks than when I don't. Literally, like, I'll go, the compliments I receive are so different. I'll dress with my skirts, my little, whatever, like, it looks nice and chic. And I'll go out to a gas station where every time you go to a gas station, there's always some dude trying to say something dumb. And then I'll just
now it's at the grocery store too.
Yeah,
I'll be like, bruh,
I can't know where it's at, So and I would dress like that, and I would be like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Like, wow, like, it's like they're amazed because it's so different.
What you mean? It's like you'll start getting. I got a compliment. It was from an older woman. You look so lovely. You know what I mean?
It's like just
this one other lady, she was like, the way you carry yourself is so gracious. And I was like, ooh, it hit different.
Right.
Like, when you start getting compliments like that, I'm just starting this journey of even realizing that the word is telling me to be more modest. So I have barely started putting this into practice. I'm just right at the beginning of it. So those comments and that's very encouraging. You know what I mean? Because it's different. Yeah. It's not like, dang girl, you fine. But it's like, oh, you're just so lovely. You're just so gracious. And to me, just because I've changed so much, I'd rather those compliments.
100%. 100%. And it comes, and those compliments come from both. Like, I'll walk into a room where there is women that are dressed like that. And I say this with all due respect, and I'm not trying to like kind of come at women, but they even treat me different. Like, the women treat me different because they feel like it's kind of like this level of respect. They're like, oh, like, she not like that. Like, you know what I mean? And the compliments from them are also different. The same way from men. Like, you just get treated like, let's be honest, like, if I see a Muslim woman, like, they're very modest in the way they dress, I just look at, I'm like, one, they're beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, you're so gorgeous. And then two, like, I also find them to be empowering. Right? Like, even me, whenever I do wear like my skirts and stuff like that, like, I feel powerful. Even my walk is so different. Like, I don't necessarily, I feel like I no longer feel like, oh, the power is in the barely wearing. It's in the wearing. I don't know. I can't even really explain it, to be
honestly, that's the word, changing you.
100%.
I think that's truly a part of the transformation, is like, where are you getting your sense of empowerment from? Like, if it's from God, you're going to get it from totally different things. That's why it's so important to like actually get in the word and spend time with him, because he can't change you unless you're spending time with him.
And you want to. You want to be sanctified. And that process of sanctification, when it comes to like your appearance, it's going to look very different. I'm not telling any girl to be out here and dress that specific way, because I've seen women that dress a little bit more like street style, like, streetwear. That's not my style. But even when they're putting it together and they are a woman of God, like, the way they put it, it looks really good. It looks good, and you still know that she's a woman of God. Versus, like, I feel powerful when I dress more like feminine and modest and whatever and girly. But that won't be the same for everybody. But the point is to like wear things that make you feel powerful, but the power is coming from God and not from like, the acceptance of everybody.
And that looks different. Like you said, it looks different for everybody. I don't feel like that means we have to put ourselves in a box and not be unique and not add our own style. I think God wants us all to be different.
Right.
We all have different gifts. We're all here for a different reason, and I know we all have different personalities, and
100%.
style is a part of how you express yourself. And I don't think you should take that away from
Literally.
yourself, but just watch out, you know, like just try to do better, and not like we say with everything else, you don't have to cold turkey it. Just start making little adjustments, throwing out little pieces here and there. Okay, this is absolutely a no. You know, start replacing those pieces with better pieces. Like, I'm not saying go and dump your whole wardrobe and say, you know, sorry, try again. Like, you know,
I did that though. I'm not gonna
You
lie.
did?
I did, and then I suffered because then I had zero clothes.
Then you had nothing to wear. You had to build back up.
Yeah, and I'm still, and literally this was like what 2 years ago, and truly finances haven't been great, so I haven't been able to like really like
to re-up how you want to.
Right, but there will be things like for example shorts. Like I was like, well, I'm in Texas, I kind of need shorts. Right? I mean, that's an excuse, but whatever. And these are like longer. I know I'm sitting down right now, but like when I get up, they kind of come up to here. Versus before, I would wear shorts that were like right there. Right. I never really like when they were like my butt cheeks are actually out, but just like right there where it cuffs, so then they even look even plumper, you know. But whatever.
So like you said, that's an adjustment.
Exactly. Like
it's not like a
like that.
huge, like, okay, my shorts is down to my knees, but you're making small adjustments to do better.
Right,
and I think that's all that really matters. I have one thing to touch on that, oh man, I'm gonna be blunt. I find this absolutely ridiculous how I see certain women that they're literally trying to change and they get all this hate for it. I'm like, this is a crazy world. This is the thing. Everybody's journey is their own. You have no right ever to judge somebody with what it took for them to get where they are. Like you have no idea. It takes people hitting rock bottom to get to where they're trying to go. Not everybody, but like you don't know what this person has gone through and what their actions have already led to their own demise and punishment. So for you to comment on somebody trying to make a change, a woman who used to dress super maybe promiscuous and do promiscuous things and like got transformed by the word of God, and you're saying, oh, that's just ridiculous. Really? Now you want to be after you did all that, you want to be this. That's not your responsibility to worry about. That's not your place. And you just have no right to judge. God is the only person that can judge us. God is the only person that knows our journey, what we went through. And I'm just telling any woman out there that's trying to change and gets those comments and that hate and that discouragement, stay on your journey. Like the worldly people that come at you with all that hate, most likely they have their own internal issues. Like I'm saying, like everything isn't about you. People really have their own issues, and
they're projecting.
They're projecting, and also God is truly the only one that judges us at the end of the day. Like these people have no hold on where you're gonna end up. So you have to do what's right for you and kind of like tune that stuff out when you're really truly trying to make a change. Because like I said, some people are fortunate enough to just be like, I'm gonna be in the Bible since I'm 10 years old.
Yeah, and I've had friends that have been like that their whole life, and I'm like, that's beautiful.
Right. But then some people have to hit their head 20 billion times in order to reach. We can't make people go to God.
Right.
And
you gotta love them to God.
Yeah, we can't make people, you need to do this right now, you need to change right now. God has to really work through you or make you reach a point to where you are fed up with not ever getting enough from the world. You're never going to get enough like of the world to be satisfied.
Right.
You're always going to want and need more of something until you go to him, and then it's like, okay, I can get the fulfillment that I really need, the permanent fulfillment that's not going to elude me. So yeah, I just dealing with just recent comments and stuff like that, and me being a person that's had like a journey of like drinking, promiscuous dressing, just being kind of like wild and open with the stuff that I say, the stuff that I do. I'm really being transformed, and it's not fake. Like, you know what I mean? It's not something that I'm putting on to show, like, this is real. Like, God took me through some stuff that hurt so bad. And affected me in a way that was so just destructive to my own life that it just kind of led me into really getting closer to him and craving him. So I just think it's just sad. And if you are one of those people that are coming at people like that, you really need to check yourself and get yourself back in the word, because even as people of Christ, judgment is totally one of the no-nos. It specifically says in the Bible in so many different places that we're not supposed to be judging anybody.
Be the first one to throw the first stone. If you're over here like sinless, right? Like Jesus literally told that to all the people that were around him, and nobody was able to throw the first stone because quite literally everybody had something. Like they did, they were sinful people. The one person that had the right to throw a stone was Jesus himself. And he himself didn't do it. Even when it comes to like women and how women are treated, there's the one thing like the Abrahamic religions, like I feel like the Bible specifically is one that goes in depth about a lot of different women versus the other two. They don't talk too much about different women, like other than like Mary and whatnot. But like in the Bible, there's so many stories of different women, and women that were quite beautiful and they only gave themselves to God for the most part. There were women that were a problem, right? Like, for example, even Abraham's wife, literally he was like, your beauty is so dangerous that if they see us together and they know that you're my wife, they're gonna go ahead and kill me.
Right, I remember that.
I'm gonna need you to go and just tell them I'm your sister. You're my sister, and in part it is kind of true, right? Like she was actually his sister in part, but it was also his wife, and she was about to cause Abraham and Sarah were about to cause the Pharaoh, whoever the king, to sin,
right? Because they didn't tell the truth,
and they were attracted to her. He saw her and he was like, "Oh my gosh, she's beautiful," right? So like we also know that our beauty is power.
Oh yeah,
right. And I think about that all the time too, because I don't know why. I just feel like sometimes, like I feel like because I'm pretty, I'm not Christian enough, right? Like I get treated in comparison to some of the other girls I grew up with. They were again, like I felt like the way that they carried themselves was so different that they would see them, and I'm talking about within the church, they'll see them as more spiritual than I was. But we know women throughout the scriptures that were very spiritual women that were of God, right? Esther was one of them. Like, she used her beauty. She knew within her beauty she could use that to like help the Jews and whatnot and let them, like Israelites, to be free.
I love that. So using the beauty instead of the stuff, right? Instead of like for the stuff we use it for, like weaponizing it in a way that's negative. Like I'm gonna use this to get everything that I want from a man, and like they're using it in a way that is influential and working on God's behalf.
100%.
That's
right,
beautiful.
Because you gotta think, like God created everything to serve Him. He made everything very purposeful, and He made things very beautiful as well, right? And we have the choice. Like all of us have a choice of like this privilege that I have. How can I use it? And not to say like to people that are not, they don't feel like they're attractive, whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to say nothing negative about that. But the people that like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, then use that influence and that power for something positive, because it has happened, right? Like throughout scriptures that these women did do that, and but there's the women that didn't do that, right? There's the Jezebels that literally she was also very beautiful, a very attractive woman, and was getting people killed left and right. You know what I mean? Like that also is so scary, because that's also like, we got to be real for our men. That's the kind of things that they're dealing with. Right. There's a lot of pretty women, but like, what are their intentions?
Ooh, that's scary. On both sides.
On both sides, for sure.
Because to be sucked in by beauty and then led so astray to where your life goes into destruction, it's a scary thing. So like the only way to combat it is to like really get in your word and use your discernment. I think a part of transformation is having such a strong discernment. Like, not only does God transform your heart, but he gives you discernment. You can feel that stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't be deceived just because you're in the word of God. Right, people can really present themselves as something different.
Yeah, the devil knows.
But you start to become more aware, and like you can feel a little bit deeper when you're around people, kind of what they're about. 90% of the time, I want to say.
Exactly. So use your beauty, not in vain, but for the Lord. You know?
Please.
And be beautiful, and don't hold yourself back feeling like, okay, if I give my life to Christ, and that means I gotta like feel less than beautiful. Absolutely not. Still be beautiful, but be intentional about doing it for him and not doing it for others. And also hold yourself accountable. Like, you know, okay, what I'm doing and what I'm wearing, like, how is this gonna help my brother and sister in Christ? You know, it's so much.
But do I look like a reflection of a woman of God? I think we have to ask ourselves that question. That's what I'm starting to ask myself. Like, if I were to go anywhere, like, do I look like a reflection of what I believe in? It's that simple, you know?
Literally. And I'm still dealing with that too, because I'm like,
it's tough.
Yeah, especially
I still want to put on my two-piece bathing suit. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, who's
my birthday's coming up this month at the end of the month. Yes, it's February 26th. I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, if I go to somewhere, you know, exotic, like, how deep does this go? Like, should I be wearing a one piece? Like, I'm still thinking, I don't know. Like, there's many things I'm still figuring out. Even if I'm just with my husband, is that okay? You know, like, there's so many questions. What I'm saying is there's so many layers and so many things we have to navigate. And it can be confusing. But as long as we know better and we're doing better and going in the right direction, you know, I think that's progress.
And asking God for conviction, you know, about it. But I think that's all we have for today, right? This was a really good episode. Again, we encourage everyone to let us know what are some topics you guys want to hear. What do you guys want us to go over? And be sure, again, to comment, like, and subscribe. Let's help each other get to 100, because we're really, really excited, again, about the project and the plans that we have in place for those, like, milestones. Stretch out. So be sure to follow us. We will be here next Sunday. God bless y'all.
God bless. Bye.